Today, I will be attempting to survive the scorching heat of the Arizona desert in Project Zomboid. In this scenario, the desert heat is just as dangerous as the zombies, as staying outside too long will cause heat stroke and rapid dehydration. Not only that, but the water shutoff is instant, making it a very scarce resource. Will I be able to become self-sustainable and survive the harsh climate, or will my luck run dry? With all that in mind, I created my character. I tailored their skills to best suit the dangerous environment, making sure to select low thirst, as consuming as little water as possible would be essential to my overall survival. I spawned in a dilapidated little house. First order of business was to find a source of food and water. The cabinets were bare and the house was empty, besides this lone juice box in the fridge. It would have to do for now. On the short walk to the neighboring house, I ran into my first zombie and took him down. Immediately checking the fridge, it was a stark difference from the last. I filled myself up and left what I couldn't consume. Food spoilage rate is very fast on this desert map, and it would be imperative to my survival to acquire canned food. When I entered the next house, I found a body with bleach bottles littered all around him. A sad reminder of how cruel this world really is. I still took these cigarettes off his body though. Moving on, I took an empty bottle and filled it up with water from what little was left inside the house's sink. The water problem was solved for now, but food was still an issue. A few hours later, I ran into my first group of the undead. Carefully taking down these first two, I turned my attention to the zombies at the window. They poured out through the now broken window, and I was able to take them down as well. Entering the room they had been in, it looked like they took off their clothes in an effort to escape the heat, but ended up succumbing to the harsh climate in the end. Shortly after, I made my way across the street, keeping in mind that I would need to stay close to shelter to avoid heat stroke. Inside the next house, the bathroom had a towel inside. This little pink towel was actually a really good find. Staying in wet clothes would surely give me a cold, and I can now stay dry from the buckets of sweat pouring out of me. It was getting late in the afternoon, and I was going to need to find a place to sleep soon, so I headed out again, and was able to momentarily fix my food problem by finding a can opener and some canned food. I ran into some trouble soon after though. Trying to take this group out, I quickly became overwhelmed. Dashing inside the house and slamming the door behind me, I jumped through a window on the other end of the house. I sprinted to a residence a few houses down and closed the door. I decided to settle here for the night and began reading this magazine. I was very anxious, undoubtedly because I haven't found a lighter for my cigarette-addicted character. Day turned to night quickly, and I settled into the bedroom for the night. I awoke to discover some zombies had gathered in the area overnight. Managed to take out two, the rest were a little more than I could handle, especially without a weapon. I was able to evade the group by sneaking my way across the road. The house I entered next had some inhabitants, and after taking out the first one, I got injured by the other, almost ending the run with one stupid mistake. Thankfully, it was just some scratches, and after patching my wound up, I searched the bodies. One of them had a butter knife. I equipped it. At least it's better than having nothing.
Nope.
After looting the next two houses, I managed to find this red truck. The mechanics looked fine. I would just need to find gas and a gas can. I read some more magazines in the next house, granting me some useful skills for the future. Another run through the neighborhood did not reveal much, but some new injuries from some zombies. I don't even know what happened here. Now, I had a laceration on one arm and a scratch in the other. Thankfully, I was able to make it to safety and discovered quite a bit of food. I was going to need to take a rest here until some of my wounds healed, so that's what I did. I read some books to cure my boredom, changing my bandages periodically, and going to the kitchen for food when hunger gnawed at me, and hoped I would be up for another long day tomorrow. I woke up early on the third day. 2 of the 4 injuries had healed overnight, giving me hope for today. There were still a few things I needed for this run that would greatly increase my chances of survival. A weapon, a book bag, and some more water. So that's what we would be working towards today. After taking out the zombie, I found a bread knife. In another house, I found a first aid kit. This had everything I would need to heal myself properly, which was perfect timing since I had an infection on one of my wounds. After disinfecting my arm, I headed out again. Soon after, I came across a house with a small group inside. Usually, when there are a lot of zombies in the house, it means more loot. So I decided to take them out, only to discover there was literally nothing inside this place. Thankfully, in the next house, there was a hand axe. After a quick midday nap, I arrived at a residence with some zombies and a police car. The hand axe from earlier was super helpful in taking this group out. It became pretty apparent by now that I need to find something other than a residential area to find some real loot and begin stockpiling. The desert heat had not been a problem so far, since shelter was super common. Tomorrow, though, that would not be the case. I decided I was tired of the residential area. The loot was poor because it was so rare. A shopping area would have a much better chance of providing me with the things I need. The only problem is I had no idea if this road would lead to anything, because the only map was the one in the workshop, and it wasn't very detailed at all. I had to try though, and about halfway down the road, I realized this was going to be an issue. Sunstruck and nauseous. If I turned back now, I definitely would not make it. Thankfully, just when I thought this run was over, I found a small diner. I could barely walk, and I immediately made my way to the sink and drank as much as possible. After a short rest, I left at the back and went to the motel next door. There were not many zombies in the motel itself, and not much loot either. After sweeping through all of the rooms, I drew the attention of a small group behind the building. There were some regular zombies, and then this rather large one. One of them had a satchel, which is great, because at this point, I had so much stuff on me, I was constantly over-encumbered. Through this cactus forest, I arrived at this abandoned bar. Upon entering, I found a crowbar in the back. While I am proudly on Team Fire Axe, this will just have to do for now. Surprisingly, upon searching the place, I didn't find much alcohol, but I did find 2 more crowbars in the bathroom. I was getting pretty depressed, and I decided to sit down and do some crosswords in the middle of the grimy bar. Eventually, I got pretty tired and fell asleep in this chair after the stressful day. I immediately head out today and start running across this big field. After taking out a few zombies, I arrive at a large supermarket. All the doors are locked and there are a lot of zombies in the area. I was only outside for a short period of time and dehydration was getting to me, so I ran over to the neighboring house and hid out in the bathroom. Then I read a book until I was able to leave again. Slowly, I began to chip away at the zombies in the area, and they just kept coming. At one point, I got injured and had to take a small break from all the killing, though shortly after, I was back at it again. Once the group was dead, I had to take out the group at the supermarket. Carefully, I led the group over and did away with them one by one. By the time I was done with them, it was late, and upon searching the bodies, I found a lighter. Now, my character could stop being anxious constantly. There were a few more stragglers in the area I had to take out, but after, I could finally enter the store. It was full of lots of loot, but it was all super random and desperately needed to be organized. As I settled into the supermarket, I decided to take out stragglers that were roaming in the parking lot. After this, I was getting pretty tired, so I went back across the street to try to get some sleep in a real bed. It was during this I had to take out one of the biggest groups yet. I'm not really sure where they came from considering I already cleaned out this house. Luckily, I was able to take the horde out and slept until pretty late in the day. When I woke up, I went back over to the supermarket. Then I began organizing the shelves the best I could, putting some pots outside in hopes that I would get lucky and it would rain. I decided this would be my home base until I found a better base location. When I was finally done sorting, I decided to go out on a looting run. Immediately, I found a way better base location and already wanted to move. There were quite a bit of zombies in the area I had to take down. It was pretty active here. I found a small shed in the back of the yard, and to my surprise, it had a generator. If I could find the gas and the How to Use Generators magazine, we would be set. I searched the first 2 houses, saving the big one for last. Upon entering the 2-story house, the alarm went off. Not good. I ran back to the house on the left and locked myself in a room and just hoped that the zombies wouldn't hear me hiding in here. Stuck in here for the rest of the night, I could hear lots of zombies moving around me. Eventually, I fell asleep and hoped that by morning, the zombies would stumble away. It had only been a couple hours, and I was awakened by the sound of pounding on my window. Upon opening the curtains, I discovered multiple zombies outside. I was going to have to make a run for it. Running through the house, I made it to a fence and jumped over. There were zombies everywhere. My dream base location had been overrun, and all I could do was run away. Running until most of the zombies were off my trail, I entered a building and hid in the darkness, with only the faint glow from my cigarette to brighten my surroundings. When I felt it was safe, I left, eventually making it to a residential area. I didn't bring much with me from the supermarket, so I was going to need to find some food and water to help me make it back home. In the backyard of one of the homes, I found some seeds. This was going to be really helpful if I wanted to become self-sustainable. Soon after, I ran into a shopping center. Inside a bakery, I found some food and water that would aid me in the hot weather, because I still had quite a bit of running to do if I wanted to make it back home to the supermarket. Leaving out the back, I ran into some zombies and took them out. I entered another store and took out 2 more of the undead. One of them had a large hiking bag. Inside the store, I was able to find the magazine I would need to operate generators. Things were looking a lot better, but I need to find a way to clear out all the zombies from where I wanted to eventually live. At this point, I was getting super exerted from all of the running I was doing, and the elements were starting to get to me. I was on my last leg when I entered this yard, and barely able to take out this small group. Making inside the house, it was obvious I almost died from my stupidity. It would be essential that I didn't get so displaced from home again, because it was obvious all the running from today had taken a toll. After sorting my loot from today into my new hiking bag, I fell asleep. Started off my morning with a plan. Lead the zombies away from my newfound base location by yelling, and then try to loop around and start fixing the place up. In other words, we're just gonna wing it and hope for the best. Heading outside, I took out a group that had gathered in the front yard, then made my run over to the place and started yelling. There were a lot of them, more than I had seen this whole playthrough. I used some evasive tactics and it seemed like I led most of the group from the houses. I ended up leading them to an industrial area across the street, taking out a few that I couldn't avoid. I took a small break in a trailer and drank some water so I wouldn't get heat stroke like yesterday. When I felt ready, I ran over to the supermarket, my first base location. I took all the items I could carry and that I had sorted earlier, hoping that the new base location location would be empty. If not completely empty, just not overrun. Arriving at the house, there weren't many zombies roaming around. There were a few zombies inside, but not really anything I couldn't handle. I was getting pretty dehydrated again though, so I had to take another small break inside. I heard some banging on the doors downstairs, but I figured it was just one zombie. Little did I know, as I headed downstairs, the banging was drawing a lot of attention. A group of zombies had gathered, and I had to begin fighting. I was leading them through the whole yard, through a house, and it was taking a lot of energy. At one point, I got injured, and I healed myself up best I could. The horde kept growing, and I was just barely surviving very close encounters. Time was ticking, and if I didn't find safety soon, I would die, if not from the zombies from the heat stroke. So I tried to run. I jumped over the fence, and slowly tried to walk away. My slow pace couldn't outrun all the zombies, and eventually, I was overrun. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video because this was really tough, and it took me like 10 runs to even make it to the week.